Hey everyone, and welcome to another Deck Tech. Today, we're joined by
Dave.
from Haven TCG, and we're taking a close look at one of the most aggressive and synergistic decks in Union Arena right now, Demon Slayer Siblings. This is the Nezuko Tanjiro focus deck that's been making a few waves. I've seen that it's starting to get more popular now that we see exactly how strong these synergies can be. And we wanted to make sure that we properly outlined the strengths of this deck for anybody to be able to pick up and start getting their wins. Let's start with the fundamentals. How would you define this deck's identity? Would you say it's purely aggressive, or does it have any secondary roles it shifts into depending on the matchup?
Thank you, Joey. So one of the things about this deck, it is considered to be a very aggressive deck, purely because there are some pieces in this deck that can switch positions even before you go into your mid game or late game when raiding with Nezuko. So I would say purely in the start, it is very aggressive. It can slow down and ramp down a little bit, but then towards the end of the game, once you start finding your pieces, it ramps up pretty fast and you can get potentially up to 6 swings in one turn. And almost 3 of them are potentially impact. So you could do a lot of damage if you see your cards.
Oh yeah, and impact being one of those keywords that nowadays I think your deck just needs them, or you need to have all the removal. In your opinion, what's the traits that set Siblings apart from other Switch style decks, just like Kirito Asuna?
So one of the things that sets this apart is, first of all, the Nezuko raid. The way it works is when her attack goes in first, and you change life, and then you swap the deck. So if you're hitting a special when you're swinging with Nezuko, what ends up happening is your Nezuko gets special, but your impact, which is usually the one you keep in the back, is safe. So you're potentially not losing your key pieces, and they can still be safe in the back. The other thing is, again, on the other side, is if you swing with your impact first, and then you swing with your Nezuko, you can protect your impact for next turn. And right now in the game, the only card that can remove a card in the energy line is called Serious Punch. So other than that, there's not a lot of cards that can remove pieces in the backline. And moreover, if a green player is using Serious Punch rather than playing the Saitama up front, they probably won't. They probably will prioritize playing the Saitama up front. So that is one big, I would say, piece. The other piece is this Tanjiro, which is a 3 energy, 1 cost Tanjiro, which bumps your characters 1,000 when they move up. So if I swing with the Nezuko and I take my Tanjiro and push it in the back, I can move this Tengen, who's a 3k, and swing it with it, making it a 4k because this Tanjiro gives it another 1,000. So now you have a 4k swing. And let's say next turn you're feeling a little energy hungry, brother has step. So just step him back and get back your energy. So that's, I think, what makes it amazing. The one thing that the deck also is very efficient in is bringing your Nezuko back. So the main key player is the booster box Tanjiro. So what the Tanjiro does is, when played, you can bring back the Nezuko. So it kind of like brings in pieces from your sideline without playing cards which other decks have, such as, there's a Tornado in green that you can take a green card back from the sideline, or there's Goodwill Event in the Todo deck where you have to spend to bring the card back. But here you can raid and take a Nezuko and play one from your hand for free. So there's a lot of flexibility in how you can move around. That's why I think it's way better than the other Switch decks.
Awesome. Now, we've got the deck laid out here from left to right, 0 cost all the way to the top end. Looking at your curve, how would you describe the deck's pacing turn by turn? And I'm going to show the curve here, thanks to Xburst, down, right there.
Got it. So first of all, you'll clearly see that I am being very ambitious in only running 10 zero costs. So I have the 4 0 cost Tanjiros, which are your key pieces, your 4 0 cost Nezukos, and two Obinais. A lot of people run 4 Obinais. I run two just because I run this deck in a more ramp style of play. So that's why I have 10 zero costs here, which are my starting pieces and how I play with them. The second row here are my, I would say, turn two, turn three plays. So this Nezuko is one of my favorite Nezukos in the game. I like her even better than the raid Nezuko. Reason being, what this Nezuko does is before an attack phase, you can swap her from your energy line to a card played in the front line, and she gets to swing. So let's say you go turn two and you play out 3 cards. So your 3 cards are a Tanjiro and 2 of these Nezukos are laid back. You can actually play out a Tengen in front the next turn and this Tanjiro, which are both double energies, swap them with 2 of these, and now your energy is all set because you have 4 energy in the back, but you also have 2 free swings early on. And a 2K swing early on is way better than, let's say like a 1500 swing, because most likely your opponent has either pushed a 2K up or a 1500 up, and 2 swings, they're likely not going to take 2 of them unless they're feeling ambitious. They would probably block one of them. So that's why I like this Nezuko more than the raid Nezuko. The other card here is the 2 cost Nezuko, which when played on the front line reduces a card's BP by 1,000 if they're a 1500 BP or more. So what this card combos well with is this color trigger Tanjiro. So this can lower a 4K to a 3K, and then this can be played out to basically sideline the card. So there's a little bit of sequencing required because this can subtract, this cannot. This only sidelines the 3K body. So you got to make sure what card you play and how you play it. One of the best techs I do is basically, if I have 3 AP, I will raid with this Tanjiro to play out this Nezuko for free in the front line, and then I'll play this in the back. So that way I'm getting an impact and a removal with this comp.
Oh, very sweet. Good synergy on that one.
Yeah, and then obviously I have Tengen here, step, double energy generator, good old boy Tengen.
Insanely good card. Step is such a good ability. People really don't respect it enough in this game. It reads either kill me or my energy is fixed.
Yep. It's honestly, I really like this card, and I'm happy that it's a double energy with a trigger. Most double energy cards don't have a trigger. I love that it has a trigger. Yeah. Moving on is the 2 energy Tanjiro, which is your bumper. Basically bumps all of your cards by 1,000 when anything moves out of the main phase. So because Nezuko switches, the raid Nezuko switches, and the 1-cost Nezuko switches, there's a lot of switching. So having him early on is very key. There have been times, and these are misplays by me. I feel like I should talk about some misplays I've done because it helps. If I'm feeling too overzealous, and I'm in a raid mentality, I will raid on this. What I've grown to realize as I've played over like almost 100 games with this deck now is it's better to play out one of the starter deck raids if you have in your hand, vanilla as a 4K, rather than raiding on this, only because this one, losing it is very critical. And even if you get it off of life, it doesn't come to your hand. So there's no way of getting it back. So just make sure you keep these babies safe. Unless, they have 1 life and you're sure that your impact is going to end the game there, then by all means,
impact, it and good text.
It. Yes. Always. Impact, OP. Unless they're running like 20 nullify impacts. No, but yes, that is my 0 to 3 curve.
All right. Wonderful. So how important is your 0 and 1 cost slots in helping to get the deck get off the ground early? You seem to be showing a more greedy setup. So do you find that it's very frequent that you can play your early things, push up, and then do that as well? Or are you leaning more into the top end of this deck, taking the RNG percentage of not being able to get those early pushes going?
So it honestly depends on what I have in my hand. So as long as if I have at least two of these Nezukos in my opening hand, or if I'm going second in my draw hand, so when I have 8 cards, I am definitely going aggressive on my turn 3, because I will play out 2 cards in front and swap them very early on. And then I'll slow the pace down. There have been times when I've had 0 costs in my hands and I haven't seen my 1 cost, and so I'm potentially bricking on that side. If that does happen, I do tend to play slower. But one thing you'll notice here, which is different from a lot of decks, is I don't run the Zenitsu Searcher. That's because when I was playing this deck very early on, Zenitsu Searcher harmed me a lot. Like, I would send cards back. Like, there were times when I would have like 3 Raid Tanjiros and a Nezuko in there, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to be seeing them for a while, so it kind of hurts. So instead of that, and we can get back to it later, I run Hashira's Meeting, which I'll get into it later. But essentially, that's what I try to do. Nezuko's in my hand, I go aggressive. If these Nezukos are not in my hand, I tend to lay out my energy first.
Okay, wonderful. Now, we've talked about your curve 0 to 3. How about we talk about those big main character energy cards that you have at the top end? You are playing a version of this that I rarely see, which is all 12 of the 4 costs. That's a lot. I'm going to trust that you know what you're doing, because I don't. Can you walk us through the logic behind running 4 of each of these cards and what you really think their role in this deck is? What is their synergy? What is their setup?
Got it. So right off the bat, I know this is very uncommon to run 4 starter deck ones. I'll be very honest with you. These 2 are mainly to play as vanilla. That is my strategy, is to play them as vanilla bodies, like early on if I can, because they're 4K bodies. NA meta, rush meta, right? Just have these 2 early on. You're going to be blocking so many things. You're going to be able to swing these 4K bodies very early on. So right off the bat, I'm telling you, these 2 out of the 4 of them are used just for vanilla purposes.
Now, I will point out one line of text on the card that you don't see very often, and it's the very end. Until the start of your next turn. So he gets that plus 500 and impact until the start of your next turn. Does that really come up in play often, or is it just always a 4K, or what is that synergy there?
Yeah, so it helps a lot against 4K impactors. So essentially, because if let's say if I do a raid this turn, I'm swinging them for impact. They're still there for the next turn. So for 4,500, you can block any 4K impactors. So one of the biggest ones that comes to my mind is the Tornado, which gains impact whenever you use an event card. So you can block the Tornado impactors. You can block a lot of impactors at this point. Any 4K impactors you can block with this one. Sukuna is more towards the 5K, so it does go through, unfortunately, if they see 2 of their fingers. But it's a very good piece, because if you know that they're going to end the game next turn, raiding this can potentially protect you from that extra impact damage that might be coming from their end.
And that's something I haven't noticed in a lot of the Switch decks, is a card that has versatility to be defensive and offensive, outside of I save my main character on the back line.
Yep. And one of the things I'll tell you, Joey, a lot of people who play this deck, and myself used to make in the start, is I would swing with the Nezuko, and then I would swap this rated one in the back. That's a waste. You are potentially moving a 45K body in the back when it can block a 4K attack, impact or not. It can block a 4K attack, right? Because it's 45 and still stay alive. So whenever you try to swing with Nezuko, avoid swapping this Tanjiro. Let's say if he's the only Tanjiro on the board and you want to swap, only swap if you know that the next swap turn, when you swap a character up, it's your final attack to win the game. Otherwise, there have been times when I don't swap it just because I know that this card has literally won me games just because it has been a 45k.
Fantastic. Now, let's jump over to that color trigger, Tanjiro. Now,
Yes.
this one is the part that I think you're a little spicy on. I've seen a lot of other lists, and for anybody who doesn't know, Div's actually good at this game. Like, he's one of those people, when he speaks about the game, I shut up and listen instead of trying to help them figure something else out. Not many people are running any, and if they are, they're running like 2 of them. Can you explain these Tanjiro color triggers and why some people might be against it, but why you're for them?
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate the kind words. I am also relatively new to the, I mean, I have been playing this game since it launched, but I guess I have put a lot of mind and hard work into this and the Sukuna Nanami deck that I play. So that's why I appreciate the kind words. So thank you for that. The reason why I run 4 of these, you'll see a lot of Tanjiro players running the 2-cost step Tanjiro to move back in front. I don't run that at all. It could be an arrogancy on my part because I don't like running lists that everyone runs because I like to be unique. And in this case, it has worked in my favor. One of the strongest things about yellow is the yellow color trigger. Resting a piece when it comes out of life is so powerful, especially for this deck. When this deck potentially can swing more than 4 times, now they have a body that that can block. So it's an extra attack. That's why I run 4 of these. Additionally, I also run 4 of these is because there have been times when I don't see, even though I have 12 raid cards and 8 raid Tanjiros, sometimes I don't see my raids. So I actually play this up front to remove one of their chump blockers, such as if you're facing Sukuna Nanami, your Makis, your simple Nabaras, that they're going to be using as chump blockers, right? So this will immediately delete their chump blockers. Another thing is this doesn't need to be played on the front line. You can play him on the back line in case you're like, okay, I can't raid this turn, but I can raid next turn. You can place him in the back, right? So that's why I run 4 of these. And I'll be very honest, there have been times when I've actually done this combo, use a turn extender, and then raided this Tanjiro again. So it helps a lot, and you fill your board super fast. Mainly, the biggest combo is, as I said earlier, is the -1k, pop the 3k. That's what it's for. And then I like running 4 because yellow color trigger, best color trigger in the game.
Oh, absolutely. Second best trigger in the game behind special. It's insane how good it is. It's insane.
Yep.
And
it is like a mini special.
It is, yeah. Even though it's only for 2 turns, but it's a fast game. 2 turns is a long time.
It's a long time, yeah.
And now let's talk about the best card in the deck, possibly.
Yes, the Nezuko. So, wait, which deck were you talking about?
No, you're the one who knows. It's Nezuko then.
No, so I know a lot of people would say the Tanjiro is the best card, and arguably, yes, it is. But without Nezuko, this deck is nothing. That's why I placed her relatively in the center, because if you remove this raid, this deck can't switch, can't do a lot of things, can't basically do the thing that it's built for. So this Nezuko is what makes the swap possible. So again, during your turn, she becomes a 4K. And the other thing is when attacking, you can swap with a Tanjiro from the front line with any character in the back line. So unlike Kirito and Asuna, which is running rampant right now, it needs to be a Kirito and Asuna that's swapping. Even an Attack on Titan, I think, which will be in the future, it needs to be Eren and Mikasa that are kind of swapping. But in this, you can swap up any character. So you can potentially, if you have two of these Tanjiros in the backline, your Obinai is a 4K body now. So imagine, I've done it. I've swung with a 4K Obinai and my opponent being like, I can't believe I am being killed by a zero cost 4K. So the whole deck revolves around Nezuko. Funny story about Nezuko. I actually pulled two stars and had to basically sell it to get into future decks. But I kind of compensated by getting this one, so I was like, okay, you know what?
Yeah, we don't complain about that. That's fine.
We don't complain. So,
and you have the 3 winners as well.
Yes. Oh, it's 2 winners and one top 4.
Oh, not as big of a flex, but still pretty good.
Pretty good. Still pretty good. Yes.
And then there's one more little guy in there before we get to your spice that I think is fantastic for this deck.
Yes. So the most important raid card after Nezuko is your Tanjiro raid. Again, always has impact. When you raid with it, you can bring out a Nezuko from your sideline and then take it in your hand and play it for free. So it's basically for 1 cost you're getting an impact, another body on board. So I think it's very powerful. Another thing is, let's say, it's mid-game. You really need a Nezuko to do the swap to win this turn, right? You raid with your Tanjiro, you take the Nezuko raid into your hand, right? Pay another AP and then raid it, because this Nezuko can be brought by this Tanjiro. Or even better, if the stars are all aligned, let's say this is your hand right now, right? You basically raid this Tanjiro, pick the raid Nezuko from your sideline into your hand, and play this Nezuko for free, because a lot of people miss this. There's actually a full stop in between the text. It says, add 1 Nezuko card with 3 or less energy and 1 AP cost from sideline to your hand. Period. Play up to 1 Nezuko card with 3 or less energy and 1 AP set to resting on your field.
So you don't have text. Okay, nice.
Yes.
Nice.
You don't have to play the card that you played. I actually saw someone at locals take this Nezuko and play it vanilla, and I'm like, you have enough AP. Just you don't have to play her. They're like, you can't raid with her. I'm like, you can just take it in your hand and not play anything, and then spend the other AP to raid one of your Nezukos in the back lines, because now you can swap.
Yes.
So that's a really good piece, which I don't think a lot of new players use. So yeah, another thing is your impactor, your game finisher. This is what you need to end the game. Every time you swing with the Nezuko, you protect them in the backline. Stays in the backline, your opponent's furious because there's no way for them to get rid of your Tanjiro impactor in the back, right? So next turn they know they're going to lose a life regardless. So that's why I think this one is very necessary to be swapped in the backline for Nezuko to keep your impactor safe.
Oh, wonderful. And now you have a card in here that not a lot of people have been running, but after seeing you play it in our Through the Gauntlet series, shout out to myself, you can check that out at my channel, Hashira Meeting. Go over the logic of this card real quick for us.
Yep. Hashira Meeting, arguably in our Haven community, we call it the best searcher in the game. If you watch any of our videos, anytime someone plays a Hashira Meeting card, we always follow up with best searcher in the game. So the text reads, look at the top 4 cards of your deck, reveal 1 card among them and add it to your hand. Reveal any card. You can add any card into your hand.
It never misses.
Nope. And then if the card you added was a Hashira affinity, you can reactivate. So it's a free searcher if you add one of these 5 Hashiras that I run. Now, there are some people who also run the GUI in this deck, basically for nullify impact, but I personally don't think it fits the space and with what I'm trying to do. Because what some people do is instead of these two, they'll run the GUI there, or instead of these two, they'll run the GUI there. But I don't have the space for it. And again, everyone's unique, right? Different play styles.
Absolutely.
So my tech with this card is basically, let's say I'm bricking. I have one Nezuko, one Tanjiro on board, and then I have nothing in my hand that I can play, or 2 cost, or I have all 3 costs. I will play the Hashira's meeting and I can take a 2 cost. Most likely, I will find the 2 cost and I will play it. Or if I get Obanai, it's a cherry on top because it's a free find. If I find Tengen, sure, I'll probably take it and I'll basically be like, I probably won't take it because if I need to play something, so I probably will take a 1 cost. But later on, let's say if my board's full and I really don't have any cards to play, and I just want to make sure that my energy is sufficient, play him, look for the Tengen, free card in your hand, and then play him. For 1 AP, you get to search, you get a step Tengen, and then for the second AP, you play it. So that's why I run the Hashira meeting. I only run 2, just because honestly, I don't need it because honestly, I don't need more than 2 because with the amount of balancing I have in the deck, I think I have tried running 4 off, and it kind of messes the tempo up a little bit. And then the second reason why I run this is because of the active trigger. Active trigger.
I love it.
Active trigger in this sort of deck is so key because your opponents are always trying to either get rid of your Nezukos or your Tanjiro impactors or this Tanjiro, right? So imagine it's a 45k body, right? You block with it, it stays alive. You hit an active trigger. Now it's a 7500, right? Yes, 7500 body. I should be good at math. I am an engineer, but yes, 7500 body now ready for blocking again. So that's why I think Hashira Meeting is a better card than the Zenitsu Searcher because I think the Zenitsu Searcher is just a draw card, which don't get me wrong, drawing is also great, but I think Active Trigger is better.
I am with you on that. I think Active Trigger is the 3rd best trigger in the game. Now, I think that just about rounds up the deck profile. Thank you very much, Div, for walking us through Demon Slayer Siblings. It is fast, it is flexible, and seems to be a very punishing deck in the hands of the right pilot. I really like this breakdown a lot. Thank you so much for doing this. And don't forget to subscribe to Haven TCG on YouTube, everybody, and check out some of the awesome events that they are going to be hosting in the future as well. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.